A $19 trillion tokenization onto the XRP ledger is about to unfold, and it's going to be completely facilitated by the XRP ledger and by XRP. And of course, all of this has been verified and confirmed by numerous sources to where Ripple's eyeing that massive boom in tokenization by institutions on the XRP ledger. And we cannot forget that all of this will cause one of the biggest supply shocks and money in monetary introduction into the XRP ledger that we've seen historically. We're talking about $19 trillion to start, and this is for institutional grade custody, but that reaching as high as $650 trillion by the end of 2033. This is what we're talking about, and this is why XRP's price has been speculated to be over $2,953 by Q1 of 2026 and over $35,000 by 2030, to the point that XRP might even be backed by gold, as many different central banks have been talking and mentioning, specifically Singapore, which released Singapore gold backed, and they have decided to integrate XRP into a gold backed system to actually facilitate the transaction of gold using XRP in the XRP ledger. But that's a whole new discussion. It's a whole new market that is valued in the hundreds of billions of dollars, and right now we're focusing on the real estate, real world asset, and tokenization market, which reaches as high as $650 trillion, if not more. But again, we got to take a look at what has been happening over the last couple of days. In fact, the introduction of trillions and hundreds of billions of dollars have caused XRP to price glitch on numerous occasions, with some people speculating that these are not really price glitches, but rather the introduction of short-term test runs that are massive amounts of money flowing in a couple seconds, triggering the price to suddenly soar and retrace. Something similar to what had happened to Gemini back when Gemini was first listed, XRP. They skyrocketed to $50 almost instantaneously upon listing. People were able to actually buy and sell XRP at that $50 mark, and then they ended up blocking all sales, reverting sales, and they ended up releasing a statement saying that yes, this wasn't in fact a price glitch, but rather it was a supply shortage. There wasn't enough XRP, there was so much demand, it triggered supply shortage, the price of XRP ended up soaring to $50, and transactions were actually conducted. Now, if we take a look at XRP in the long run, right, this is up 42,000%. Yes, XRP is booming, and it's up about 23% in volume, about $6.44 billion in the last 24 hours. The charts look amazing, and it's actually primed for a massive breakup. But it makes sense, again, when you're talking about the introduction of $19 trillion in the next year or so, and the price of XRP soaring to thousands of dollars by Q1 of 2026, which is only months away, it makes sense that the charts would align perfectly with that momentum. But let's take and do a deep dive into all of this information. Take a look at what we're about to show you right now. The possibility of $35,000 is not really a shocker anymore. In fact, it is more likely than we've ever expected for XRP. Here's one example. The director of one of the globalized and largest venture capitalist firms, I mean, these guys do, they have risk management teams that look entirely at that. But the director of Vill Capital literally went publicly and stated that they anticipate XRP could potentially reach a value ranging from $10,000 to $35,000 per XRP once regulatory measures are in place and it establishes itself as the world's global bridge currency. But how can we forget that Ripple's own CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, has won publicly and said XRP is the only digital asset that is supposed to solve a multi-trillion-dollar, a problem at the scale of a global payments problem, something massive, facilitating trillions, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars daily. Crazy enough, Archax, which is one of the largest hedge funds and payment transactors, actually predicted that they will see XRP facilitating over $30 to $50 trillion traded on the XRP ledger within the next 2 years. Again, these are massive institutions, and their officials literally publicly talking about this, that 30 to 50 trillion all on the XRPL trading on Archax will happen in the next 2 years. But how can that even be possible? Well, it comes down to the fact that the #1 American crypto is XRP, and we have institutions, central banks, and government officials now signing deals to unlock trillions of dollars, just trillions of dollars into American cryptocurrencies, XRP specifically, and the US economy. But it also comes down to institutions building on the XRP ledger and unlocking, again, that hundreds of trillions of dollars through a new market. One of these is RealFi, and they're positioning to unlock a massive $654.39 trillion global real estate market directly onto the XRP ledger, which is of course going to cause a big supply shock for XRP, and specifically the token that they use for transactions built on the XRP ledger, which is the Real token. Now, the Real token is a big part in the XRP ledger. It is actually the #1 real world asset token on the XRP ledger. It's the #1 DeFi project on the XRP ledger. It's also the #1 real estate project on the XRPL. This token is what's being facilitated, and it's using the XRP ledger. but you probably haven't heard of them. I mean, they're not yet listed on a single centralized exchange, there's no massive marketing campaign, but they're skyrocketing and soaring because they're actually solving a multi-trillion-dollar problem, and the volume of the problem that they're solving, I mean, this is actually real utility. Well, it's facilitating that massive boom. It went from a hundredth of a penny to now, I think, about 3 cents, and I'm going to show you guys, and we're going to talk about it shortly in detail. But it's important to announce that now is the time. RealFi, the institution that is actually building on the XRP ledger and uses the Real token, has announced that RealFi has initiated discussions with several leading blockchains to enhance accessibility of the Real token, the official reward token of the RealFi ecosystem, and is built completely on the XRP ledger. And they're planning to deal with some of the largest exchanges. I mean, if the Real token gets listed on a centralized exchange, this will soar into the thousands. It's not a shocker because we had XRP Queen, one of the most famous and influential experts within the crypto space, literally publicly say that if just 1% of the $650 trillion market enters into the Real token, which is a very low supply of about phase 1 supply is 22 million, that is nothing. But if just 1% of the 650 trillion enters, then we will see Real token skyrocket to $65,000. It's crazy, but again, you gotta look into it and you gotta do the research. Like, take a look at this. The Real token has received the #1 score alongside XRP, XCC, XLM. It's a 10 out of 10 score with, take a look at this, top three holders, low risk, VanEck score is 100%, KYC score is 100%, total wallets are over, again, this is insane, but 3,491, and this project is only about 2 or 3 months old, so it's very, very new, and they're not listed on centralized exchanges, but the growth is insane, and the expansion is also insane. It's exponential, and it's all because of the fact, again, people see potential. It's a real world project solving a real, multi-trillion-dollar issue. This is not even off of central exchanges. This is purely utility based. This is why the volume is soaring. This is why the price action is soaring. It's because there's not enough supply to go around, but institutions need it to actually facilitate transactions in real world assets. I mean, this is a big deal. It's up 10%, and it's really built on the XRP ledger. And there's very low resistance, there's very strong support levels. I mean, this is huge, guys. This is the lowest it's ever going to hit. It's currently sitting at about 3 cents. If you are looking for something that is revolutionary, solving a multi-trillion-dollar problem, real utility, it's lying in the Real token. And again, the potential here is huge because once they get listed on centralized exchanges, the price will soar. Like, you look at any real-world asset project that's listed on a single centralized exchange, these things are up at, $50, $60, $70 at least, and they have, these normally have 100 billion or 200 billion total supply. Phase 1 supply for a Real token is 22 million, which is nothing. That's number one. Number two is, if you look at it, this thing, because of its very low supply, if it just does like $100,000 in daily transaction volume or $200,000 in daily transaction volume, the price will soar. And it could easily skyrocket into, again, not 60, 70, but potentially $300, $400, $500, even $1,000. And it could happen, almost instantaneously, where you see the price soar very, very quickly. But the concept here is that there's a lot of potential, and you got to do your research into this stuff, because generational wealth is created off of utility-based products that solve a real multi-trillion-dollar problem, that are innovative, and most importantly, again, you want something that is really dealing with real-world assets. That's where real utility lies. That's where the growth lies, and this is the project that I've been keeping an eye on. Again, you got to take a look at the institution that is using and backing it. I mean, this is RealFi, I think it's a massive institution that allows you to buy multi-million-dollar properties using the Real token, and you can earn using the Real token, and it's built completely on the XRP ledger, and they're hosting a massive giveaway. So if you want to enter a $1,000 giveaway, you can just head on to payrollfi.com, their website, and then click on here, register now, and you can enter the massive giveaway. They're giving away $1,000 worth of Real token. And look at this, the Real token is up in the green once more right now. Again, this is very, very bullish. I gotta say this, I am very, very bullish on the Real token. But it all comes down to the fact that they're solving a multi-trillion-dollar problem. They're doing this with real-world assets, they're innovative, and most importantly, they're also on the XRP ledger. It's literally an all-in-one package. And then you have the fact that they're listing on centralized exchanges very soon, which is automatically going to literally soar the price. Like, everybody knows that upon listing, the price will soar. It's like an unlock to billions of users and billions of dollars that obviously the price will have to soar. It's basically pretty much, in my opinion, almost like a guarantee that the volume will soar. Now, again, I say this because you're just unlocking a massive market, you're unlocking to new users. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, it's not financial advice, I do your research. Even XRP, guys, I'm very bullish on XRP. Like, take a look at this. XRP is up 41,000%, which is actually extremely bullish, and it comes down to the fact that, XRP at $3 in almost like 2 days. It went from like $1 to $3 in 2 days, but it tells you the potential of XRP in the big picture of things, right? XRP could quite easily go ahead and soar to like $5, $6, $7, $10 overnight. It is not that big of a shock. the institutions trick you into believing that it's impossible, right? Because the lawsuit, because this and that and that and that. But it's done. And now is the time for real globalization of the XRP ledger, for real wealth to flow into XRP by institutions, by local banks, by central banks, by governments. Trillions of dollars will end up being facilitated. So don't listen to the FUD, don't listen to the music in the background that is making so much noise. Rather, do your research, make your own decision. And then you gotta look into innovative projects, right? Bitcoin at the start went from $1 to 100,000 now. Why? Because it was innovative, right? At the time, if you were able to, look into things and do your research, then they ended up buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price skyrocketed and they made 120,000. And so I tell you guys the same thing for real token. Do your research. It's not financial advice. I'm not financial advisor. And of course, XRP, I'm bullish on that is for sure. I'll see you guys next time and peace.